Has the green energy bubble burst? Are the days of green energy numbered? If you have been wondering about this video is for you. We know that the renewable energy sector is growing, but the question is whether it can grow fast enough to meet the demand for green energy. 2022 onwards has been the worst time for green energy. And what is probably more heartbreaking is the fact that there is no immediate hope of a quick turnaround. This is bad news when it comes to climate change and a huge concern for all of us, and we want you to hang in here to understand why this is happening. In this video, you will learn how and why supply chain constraints have slowed wind and solar installations, making the green bubble go burst. But before we get to the meat of it, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel, my friends. There is a deteriorating demand for solar energy, not just in the US but in Europe too. Major solar energy players like SolarEdge, Enphase, and SunPower have a big problem on their hands. Their stocks have plummeted by as much as 70% in just 12 months. Wind energy is also facing the same issue, and giants like Ørsted are experiencing a steep fall in their share price and several cancellations of offshore wind projects. This is occurring despite Joe Biden, the US president, signing the much-awaited Inflation Reduction Act in October 2023. This act allocates 6 times more funds to renewable energy companies than normal US manufacturers, injecting a whopping $380 billion into the green energy sector. But all this and more has surprisingly not stopped the stocks of the biggest green companies in the US from falling like lumps of clay. What happened to this once vibrant green energy sector is a warning against too many subsidies. It is a story that needs to be heard. So let me take you through this amazing story of green energy from its heady days to its fall in 2023. Let's start from the beginning. The story of green energy, the heydays. Renewable energy was a potential growth sector, and green was still gold in the early 2000s. Climate change had become a policy priority, and governments around the world were gleefully investing hundreds of billions of dollars in subsidies to develop carbon-free renewable energy like hydroelectric power, nuclear power, and solar and wind energy. Most of the growth in this sector was coming from wind and solar. The energy generated using these two renewable sources had increased tenfold in just 13 short years. 2023, the cataclysmic year. Everything was going well, but cut to 2023, green has taken a big hit. Consider this. Even though the US is generating 15% of its electricity from wind and solar, the International Renewable Energy Agency is still calling the future of renewable energy grim. What happened in just a couple of years for the sun to go down on solar and wind? To make you understand this, I will have to go into a bit of economics, my friends. But I promise to keep it simple. The green bubble, an economic theory, explains the slump in green by saying that an overinvestment in renewable energy, that is wind and solar, has led to the green bubble bursting. Sounds so contrary, doesn't it? Why does a sector with a lot of investments and subsidies suddenly go weak in its knees? We are coming to this. Stay with us. For green energy to be truly sustainable, it must be commercially viable and sustainable. This is not how things are unfolding today, with the global green energy stocks falling precipitously. There are a few important reasons for this. I shall be enumerating a few important ones here in an extremely simple manner. Economic viability. What happened in the early 2000s was that there were a lot of easy profits to be made in solar. As the solar power technology matured, the cost of the solar power panels increased quite a lot. This limited the profit margins of solar companies globally. Basically, as technology advances, any new improvements start costing a lot in R&D. And when a company invests in R&D, its profits are impacted as research and development costs a lot of money. There was a decline in the prices of solar panels by 19% between 2010 and 2017. A lot of average Americans and Europeans converted to solar. This was the best time for solar tech companies worldwide. But between 2017 to 2022, green solar energy stopped being the gold that it was because the price of solar panels decreased by just 4.5% a year. The consumers wanted cheaper and more efficient solar panels, and when they didn't get these, they stopped playing ball. This meant reduced sales and more money spent on overheads. The thing to note here is that when solar technology was new, it was a relatively primitive technology, and there were large, easy gains to be made. As solar technology advanced, it became more and more difficult to make further improvements. This naturally impacted the profits of solar tech companies and burst the green bubble. A similar thing happened in the mature wind energy sector too. The costs of wind turbines didn't drop fast enough for more people to convert to wind energy. The best period for wind energy was in the mid to late 2000s. Wind power prices increased dramatically during this period as the global real estate sector was expanding, and the fossil fuel supply chains couldn't keep up with the demand of new households that were being added daily. But then a lot of other things started coming in the way of advancing wind energy. The costs of wind turbines plateaued, and another thing that pushed back the demand for wind power was the design of the rotator blades on wind turbines. You see, blades on wind turbines spin in the wind, and it is this motion that is converted into electrical energy. A lot of innovation to improve the efficiency of the wind turbines focused on increasing the size of the blades. Now, these blades are pretty sharp and can be dangerous for wildlife. Plus, wind farms make a lot of noise, and the noise pollution increases proportionately to the length of the blades. The new wind turbines could generate more electricity by increasing blade volume, but the locals started opposing the setting up of more wind farms because of the harm to wildlife and aesthetics. Many wind energy companies had to suffer due to this local pushback, and their stocks started plummeting. But that's not all. Another factor that damaged the economic viability of wind and solar farms was the lack of proper places where they could be set up. A solar project in the Arizona desert would make more money, but it is not always possible to build a solar park in such sunny areas every time. Cost competitiveness. The second factor that was very important in bursting the green bubble was the cost competitiveness of solar and wind energy, as compared to energy from burning fossil fuels. See, to be cost-effective, a green project should be profitable over its entire life cycle, which includes both the cost of capital and the cost of operations. Wind and solar projects require much larger investment at the beginning of the project. The company has to set up wind turbines or solar panels and make them capable of converting green energy into electricity. So the upfront investment for green energy systems is much higher than in coal or natural gas-powered power plants. The cost of operations of green energy plants, however, is generally much lower because they use wind speeds and solar energy to generate electricity. A fossil fuel plant, on the other hand, requires coal, and this usually has to be transported to the site of the plant. And this can be very expensive. There is also the cost of maintenance of solar and wind farms. It used to be much lower than the cost of fuel needed in fossil fuel plants earlier, making this sector economically sustainable. The renewable energy companies were able to recoup their high investment costs over time, and it was this competitiveness that was allowing the green companies to thrive. However, this competitiveness was lost due to intermittency, especially in solar power. The solar panels don't generate electricity at night or when there is cloud cover. The solar companies thus incur large losses. A similar thing happened to the wind energy sector too. Constructing an offshore wind farm is also not cost-effective. It is an extremely complex procedure that can take years to get the necessary licenses, fix the supplies of materials, and buy the wind turbines. Then there are the massive amounts of concrete, steel, copper, and aluminum, and underwater electricity transmission lines that need to be factored in. These two are the main reasons why green energy companies are reeling under a large quantum of debt, which is unsustainable. The only way out for them is to increase the price of the green energy they produce, but this will stop their consumers from buying from them, and this in turn will lead to more debts for the green company. It's a catch-22 situation where even subsidies are not able to help green companies pay back their loans. No wonder that they are almost on the verge of bankruptcy. We hope we have been able to answer all your questions related to why the green bubble has burst. Would you still go for renewable energy for yourself, or flip back to fossil fuel-generated electricity? Do let us know. Please also hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more financial news you can use.